Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A Course in Miracles workbook for students. Today we are on lesson 13, and it says, can you hear me over the waves?
Oh yeah, I don't hear the
Okay,
waves at all. I just hear you.
okay, because they are crashing.
Wow.
Okay, anyways, number one. So I'll read one, you can read two, and we'll
Okay,
just alternate.
perfect.
Today's idea is really another form of the preceding one, except that it is more specific as to the emotion aroused. Actually, a meaningless world would be impossible. Nothing without meaning exists. However, it does not allow that you will not think you perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be particularly likely to think you do perceive it.
Okay, number two. Recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. It represents a situation in which God and the ego challenge each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space that meaninglessness provides. The ego rushes in frantically to establish its own ideas there, fearful that the void may otherwise be used to demonstrate its own importance and unreality, and on this
Impotence.
alone, impotence and unreality, and on this alone, it is correct. Yeah.
3, it is essential, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaningless and accept it without fear. If you are fearful, it is certain that you will endow the world with attributes that it does not possess and crowd it with images that do not exist. To the ego, illusions are safety devices, as they must also be to you who equate yourself with the ego.
Number 4. The exercises for today, which should be done about 3 or 4 times, for not more than a minute or so at most each time, are to be practiced in a somewhat different way from the preceding ones. With eyes closed, repeat today's idea to yourself. Then open your eyes and look about you, slowly saying, I am looking at a meaningless world. Number
That's still you.
Okay. Repeat this statement to yourself as you look about, then close your eyes and conclude with, a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God.
Number 5, you may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement. Whatever form such resistance may take, remind yourself that you are really afraid of such a thought because of the vengeance of the enemy. You are not expected to believe the statement at this point and will probably dismiss it as preposterous. Note carefully, however, any signs of overt or covert. Read again. Note carefully, however, any signs of overt or covert fear in which it may arouse.
Number 6. This is our first attempt at stating an explicit cause and effect relationship of a kind which you are very inexperienced in recognizing. Do not dwell on the concluding statement and try not even to think of it except during the practice periods. That will suffice at present. I'm so surprised my voice is this raspy.
It doesn't want you to do this.
No,
Your ego doesn't want you to do this.
that's it.
There was a phrase in here that caught my attention, and I'll have to try and find it. It was the blank space. What was it? I'll have to try. What did you read in this? What did you hear in this?
I feel like I need to read it again almost. I am looking at a meaningless world. Okay, well, so it's trying to disconnect us initially from all the meaning that we put on things, and then turning it around to say, but we actually do need meaning. Things do have meaning because that's how we live in this world. But at the same time, to recognize that they don't have any power over us.
Mm-hmm. That's from the first paragraph. Nothing without meaning exists.
Mhm.
pardon me. However, it does not follow that you will not think you perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be particularly likely to think you do perceive it.
Recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. It represents a situation on which God and the ego challenge each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space that meaninglessness provides. So are we to stop putting our own meaning and just try to interpret what God's meaning would be and is?
Yes, I believe so.
Mm.
What we think of first usually is ego-based.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of an example, but I think it's automatic to go to the ego and not wake up and just say, I am love. It's like, what do I need to do today? Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just awareness around that. Um, and I think too, when we look around and we see meaningless things, like I just packed for a trip, all these things are meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
So why did I bring all this stuff?
Just to make your
It's
meaninglessness more comfortable instead of walking around naked.
well, actually, it's fear. I got all these things because I was fearful. I wanted to make sure I had water because if I don't have
Mhm.
water, where am I going to get it? How am I going to carry a bunch of
Yeah.
water to my condo?
Mhm.
What am I going to eat for breakfast?
Mhm.
I could go without. Oh my God, right? So I guess the underlying thing is that we are fearful
Mhm.
without even the awareness of it until we become aware of it, that the underlying feeling is fear.
Right.
So when we wake up and we go, we have everything we need, and oh, look, I just happen to have water here. What
Mhm.
a blessing. Or, of course, there'd be water here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's totally in our perception. Yeah, and I like the word empty space here. It represents a situation in which God and the ego challenge each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space that meaninglessness provides. It's kind of a interesting set of words, empty space.
Where did you see
That
that? Because I've been looking for that.
that's number two.
Okay. Really? I just read that and I didn't even see it. Mhm.
And then the
Oh yeah,
ego
there we are.
rushes in frantically to establish its own ideas there, fearful that the void may otherwise be used to demonstrate its own impotence and unreality.
Mhm.
On this alone, it is correct. That's a really loaded number two there.
Mhm.
Because, like I say, if we don't wake up and just go, well, of course there's water here,
Mhm.
but I have our ego. I better make sure there's water here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. And then number three, it is essential, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaningless and accept it without fear.
Mhm.
If you are fearful, it is certain that you will endow the world with attributes that it does not possess and crowd it with images that do not exist. Because the truth is, I am safe.
Right.
I am abundant. Of course, I'd have all these things.
Mhm. Yeah.
A meaningless world engenders fear. So it's funny when we read the title or when you look at it for the next day, you're like, oh, I wonder what that's going to bring up. And engenders fear. How can meaningless world engender fear? And here we
Mhm.
we digest it a little bit, and
Yeah, we just figured it out.
yeah, you may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement. Whatever form such resistance may take, remind yourself that you are really afraid of such a thought because of the vengeance of the enemy, and vengeance and enemy are in quotations.
Mhm.
So those are ego words and not Godwards, because God is everything and love and abundance and safety, and everything is magical and perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. And then number five, like within five or four there, it says
The
then close
exercise.
your eyes and conclude with a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. How does that sound absurd to us?
Right. Hmm.
Right? Because we want to, our ego is so automatic, whereas God, we have to practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like.
Right.
I'd like it to be the other way around, but I'm a human being in this world, and I think that's what we're supposed to. We came
Yeah.
in here to feel all the stuff, and fear comes
Mm-hmm.
first
Mm-hmm.
until we practice the God part.
That's right.
Yeah. Anything else you're pulling out of that?
Not really. No, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, these are all very straightforward, even though they are brain pretzel exercises.
Yeah,
But the simplicity of them is not lost on me, right? It's just how complicated we as human beings make
I'm
everything
glad you said that.
bigger than it is.
Right? We do that
Mm-hmm.
every day, all day long. We make everything bigger than it is, and these are
Yep.
very simplistic statements.
Yep.
And it's our ego that makes us go, well, what is this about?
Yeah. There has to be more to this than meets the eye.
And no, it's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that's it, I will end the recording here.
Okay.
Okay.